looking back and everything, like the one thing that I wish I had done was just make the most of the game and enjoy the game more. Because for the longest time, I mean, I've put pressure on myself to perform well and to do well. And at some point I stopped enjoying playing for a bit, and
Yeah.
that's how big of a turn it took. I went from being completely passionate and loving this game of soccer to at one point in my life, like not wanting to play. Hey there, before we get into today's episode, just a quick message. If you haven't subscribed to this channel already and you enjoy what we talk about and the discussions that Susan and I have on this podcast, really help us out to share this message with everyone if you were to just click that button. So if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe and enjoy the episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Teen Talks. Rehan and I here, and today we're going to talk about teens and sports and parents and everything related to that. Sometimes great, sometimes not so great experience.
Yeah.
So I had all my kids played baseball or softball, and they all played soccer, and they all played tennis. So I was the mom who was out there. Yeah. They played it all the way, well, not baseball, but all the way through soccer, all the way through from 6 years old, all the way up till graduated from high school. So I was the mom on the sidelines, bringing the
Soccer mom.
treats. Yep.
Soccer mom.
In the
Did,
rain, in the snow, in the.
did you bring orange slices?
Yes.
Yes, let's go.
So you're the one who was on the field.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I've been playing soccer since the age of 4, and I'm 21 now. So that's like a lot of math, but approximately like I would say 16, 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I play semi-professionally now, but I do remember like back in the day when I was living in Canada and how it was for me just playing and going to games and having like my parents come and watch me and stuff like that. And it was interesting to see how other parents would react because
Mm-hmm.
you have different types of parents on the sidelines. You have the parents who are constantly cheering on and saying, "Yeah, good job. Oh, nice try," and all that stuff like they're
Yep. That
encouraging.
was me.
There we go. But you also have like the parents who are actively like coaching their kids and telling them what to do and taking on that role and being a little bit more, I don't know if this is the right word, but maybe more intrusive.
Mm,
Um, when it comes to what the kid is doing on the field or on the court
yeah.
or on the rink, like I don't know. But it's really interesting to see, and I think that either way, there are consequences, right? There's something that happens, there's a reaction that your teen can have. Your teen can feel a certain way based off of how you as a parent are acting on the sidelines. And I think that's an
Mm-hmm.
important thing to talk about because nowadays, I mean, sports are huge. It's a
Mm-hmm.
huge part of, young people's lives. And so yeah, Susan, you were saying that you were the parent who was like, cheering on the sidelines. Kind
Yeah.
of, would you like to share a bit your experience of like, how you felt as a parent watching your kids play, why you chose to be that type of parent on the
Mm-hmm.
sidelines, but also maybe talk about the experience of what you witnessed when it came to other parents out there.
Yeah. Well, I think, and also it depends on the experience of whether it was my kids were in rec
Mm-hmm.
sports. So those not as intense as if they were to go to select or whatever like that,
Mm-hmm.
high intensity, like we're trying to make it here and everything. So for us, it was more fun.
Yeah.
So we didn't experience as much of that parenting this.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing about us was most of the time the kids stayed with the same team,
Mm.
and the coach came along too. I mean, there were some changes, but very consistent.
Yeah.
And so we knew a lot of the kids, and um, it was a cohesive group. But even in that environment, I remember a couple of dads who just couldn't keep their mouth shut. And they just wanted to win. They
Yeah.
just wanted to win. And it didn't matter. They were harder on their own kid, like yelling at them from you got this, you're doing this right, that kind of stuff. Now,
Mm-hmm.
don't forget to do this, or that kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes even yelling at the coach,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, coach, why didn't you do this? Or blah, 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 And some of us would just be like, yikes. And I'm sure that the kid on the field who was getting that, or that's their dad, was not probably a little embarrassed, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I doubt it. Did it fuel them to do better? I don't know.
Yeah.
So what about you? Because that's what I experienced as a parent. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an aggressive, like,
Yeah.
whatever. But, and I know when it gets, because I've gone to some select games of
Mm-hmm.
friends of mine, their kids, and it definitely is more intense.
Mm.
Definitely more intense because there's skin in the game of we got to win. We got to
Yeah.
get to the top.
Yeah.
And they're paying a lot of money for their kids to go too.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that like that comes with an added like I guess pressure. We can use that
Mm-hmm.
word. It comes with an added pressure to not necessarily perform well, but you have to give it your all, right? Like the higher up you're playing, I guess, the higher the level, the more expectation there is of you to, put in the work and give it your all and stuff like that. Which,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes sense, granted, right? But at the same
Yeah.
time, there has to be an understanding like this is sports and sports primarily is to have fun. Like that's the main thing,
Yeah.
right? If you're not
Probably
having
very few
fun,
are planning on being a professional.
yeah. And
The odds are still
even
low.
the odds are so low, but even those who are like planning to, pursue a career in a sport, at least from my experience now, after going through the journey that I've been through, looking back and everything, like the one thing that I wish I had done was just make the most of the game and enjoy the game more. Because
Mm.
for the longest time, I mean, I've put pressure on myself to perform well and to do well. And at some point I stopped enjoying playing for a bit, and
Yeah.
that's how big of a turn it took. I went from being completely passionate and loving this game of soccer to at one point in my life like not wanting to play, like not wanting to go to training because I was just fed up. I was like burnt out. I was like I can't do this anymore,
And do you
right?
feel like any of that was pressure from yourself, your parents, your coach? Where do you feel like that burnout came in from?
So with my story in particular, there's two aspects to it. When I was growing up, like my parents, they weren't the ones like cheering on like all the time, like on the sidelines, very vocal. It
Mm-hmm.
was more after the game. Like my mom, she was more of the, good job, you did well, no matter what. Even if I didn't have a good game, it was always like that. It's like, oh, good job, you played well, Rehan. Um, my dad, he was the one who was really helping me push, right? I'll put it that
Mm-hmm.
way. And, yeah, sometimes, I mean, I didn't enjoy hearing what he had to say. It was hard for me to hear. Sometimes on the ride home, it was difficult. It was tough. I would cry. Like it just it wasn't resonating with me, right? Um, but I think what happened then is that taught me a huge portion, like when it came to my development, it taught me to be like to set high standards for myself and to almost, yeah, put more pressure and be more, I guess, harder on myself when it came to my development as a player. So then what happened was when I moved to France at the age of 13, I didn't have like mom and dad coming to watch me play and coming to training anymore. So then what happened is I put that pressure on myself. And
Right.
so it's like I think one thing led to another where sometimes, but I just remember sometimes when I was younger, like I'd play games and I knew that I wasn't playing well. And one of the thoughts that I had in my head was like, I knew on the ride home, I was going to be told something, right?
Okay.
And mhm.
That, okay, let's just kind of go back and look at how old were you when that started?
So this is before I moved to France. So this is preteen years.
So
This
had
is
you
like
made the decision, I'm going to be a professional
I was taking
yet?
it very seriously. It was like a
Okay.
passion and a dream of mine. It was an idea. I hadn't necessarily taken big action towards it yet, but it wasn't something that I was just doing recreationally. Like I was
Mhm.
very serious about it. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that you're in that situation? That's why I'm looking at it, because um in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
it's not your dad's job to talk about how you did and
Mm-hmm.
push you. It's
Yeah.
the coach's job to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think unless you are like, I am 100% all out, I want to be this professional, and that is my plan. And if you weren't there yet, then I
Mm-hmm.
think that it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Just in my opinion, because I think it hurts your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's the coach's job. It's not his job,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
for sure. I
And
agree
you
with
were
that
afraid.
100%. Yeah.
I didn't do well. I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to get lectured,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And so I agree with you 100%. 100% I agree with you because at the same time, like the coach is the one who has the expertise, he has the experience and stuff. And at that time, for example, my coaches, like they were ex-professional players. One of them even played in like the World Cup in 1982. Like this is like these are really good players
They
and
know what
coaches
they're
like
talking about.
they know exactly what they're talking about. And my dad, I mean, at least from, his own personal experience when it comes to soccer, like he never played really,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, but I think the thing is like, from his point of view, he wants to do whatever he can to help me get to where I want to be. And the
Hmm.
way that he thought was best for him to do that was through pushing me that way, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Now, so he's doing it out of love. And looking back on it, I recognize that, which is why I've been able to, you know, like understand his perspective, like
Hmm.
not hold it against him or anything like that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that, yes, it has affected me like to this day, right? Um, I've had to deal with things on my own with the way I think about myself and how I play, you know, because of things that I experienced in the past when it came to like that relationship.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show like, yeah, I was young. I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And those things have stayed with me 10 years later.
Hmm.
So it's important, like, I think for parents at least, and this is coming from my experience as a player, as a young person, it's super important to recognize, like, and we've talked about this before, but your words have such a big impact, especially like from what I remember, I knew when I had played a bad game. I knew.
Yeah.
I
You
already
knew it
knew it.
already. Yeah.
Exactly.
You didn't need somebody to tell you. You already knew it.
It's almost like I'll put it this way. I was already on the ground. I had been knocked down, right? I didn't need to be knocked out. I needed someone to pick me up and to walk me out of that ring.
Yeah.
That's what I needed, right? I didn't need
Yeah.
someone to look at me on the ground and be like, boom, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't actually happening, but it just metaphorically, like I, it wasn't the best thing. Once I had already put that pressure on myself, I knew I was almost beating myself up about it. And then to have someone else then come and like, you know,
Yeah.
make it even worse, I guess. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
it hurts. It hurts
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So I think the big picture is, what's the goal of this? What is the goal of sports, right? What is the goal of, why is your kid in sports?
Yeah.
The majority in the United States anyway, the majority of kids, that is, they're in sports
Yeah.
at between those ages.
Mm-hmm.
The majority, they start there young, and then some keep going and all that. But it's really good extracurricular activity. I mean, it keeps you healthy. You get your exercise, you learn how to be on a team. All those kinds of things are really good. But I
Yeah.
think that when we turn that into something of less than fun, or more than fun, however you're going to say that, but
Yeah.
it becomes something that's not just for fun and enjoyment, but it becomes this, I gotta win, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we got to be careful what we say to our kids,
Yeah.
because it hurts.
Yeah.
they already know. They're already getting beat up on the field. They don't need to be getting beat up on the
Yeah.
sidelines.
Yeah. And
So,
like it's one of those things, understanding the fact that yes, you're doing it out of love, right?
mhm,
You're pushing them that way and in that direction. Like you're not getting mad at them or anything because you don't like them. No, it's
right.
because you love them. You want to push them. You want them to do better. That
Mhm,
you're I guess it's the you're being hard on them so that they can, maybe understand something or change something or whatever.
mhm.
But sometimes that's not what they want to hear and that's not what they need to hear,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think one good thing is to just think about and maybe even have the conversation with them and just try and understand as much as possible, like what they need in that specific moment, right?
Mhm.
That ride home after a game is probably one of the most important moments, like for a teenager or for any kid for that matter,
Mhm.
in sports. Because honestly, I could have easily just been completely broken and stopped, like
Yeah.
stopped playing. Been
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm done with this. I
Mhm.
can't deal with this anymore. Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And like if I think about it, that would have changed my life completely. So it's like you have to choose the way you want to approach things and choose what you say and all of that stuff. You have to choose really
Mhm.
wisely and just be really aware of what space your teen or your kid is in so that you can provide them with the best value or the best form of communication possible so that they can feel okay, right? So that they feel
Yeah.
good, they feel empowered more than hurt and brought down.
And that goes back to everything we've always talk about is relationship and having that open communication
Hmm.
where you listen and you empathize and you understand, hey, that's your best game. That's all right. The next one will be better, no
Yeah,
problem. Um, there's no need to beat them up anymore. They've
yeah,
just now it's time to lift them back up and realize, okay, it's just a game,
yeah,
because sometimes they do get really upset. And so you want
yeah,
to you want to make them realize it's just a game.
yeah,
And in the big picture of life, it's you just learned how to get yourself picked back up again. It's okay.
yeah,
You're gonna do better next time.
exactly.
It's so I think, I don't know how big of a problem this is, but it's definitely something that parents need to realize because so many parents are doing this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and ultimately I just want to add one thing. Like when it comes to sports, the ideal, like the reason why when it comes to sports is to give it your all. Like that's the most important thing. You
Mm-hmm.
want to give it your all. If you're giving it your all, then you're good. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can give it your all, but it's just not your day,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And for those of you who have played sports, like you understand that, you know what I'm
Right.
saying. And like it's okay. Can't be perfect all the time. And that's
Yeah.
the same thing for your kids. Like it's gonna happen. They're not gonna be able to perform really well all the time. That's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
But as long as they're giving it their all, as long as they're trying their best, and most importantly, as long as they're having fun and enjoying it, then at that point it's like then what more do you want? What more do you need from them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's as simple as that. And yes, if they are trying to take it far and they are trying to pursue it, ultimately it has to come from them. You can be
Yeah.
there to support them on that journey and be the support that they need. And sometimes it might be pushing them that extra inch, right? That extra mile, helping them take that move forward. But sometimes it might just be supporting them, you know, giving them
Mm-hmm.
something to lean on as they go on
Yeah.
that journey. So it's important to recognize that, there are different dynamics, there are different reasons why kids play sports and different ambitions and all that stuff. And
Sure.
just to know
Yeah.
like the way the way you are going to interact with them as a parent in those different situations can literally make or break them. And yes,
Mhm.
huge responsibility, but that's the truth.
Yeah. It made me think of something else too, because we had this weird dynamic in our household with my
Hmm.
ex-husband as their father. And I tried to go to almost every game I could. I
Yeah.
really made a point of going because we had carpools and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I always tried to make it there, even
Yeah.
in the rain and all that stuff. And their father did not.
Mm.
I pushed and pushed and pushed and said, "You need to go."
Yeah.
And he'd say, "It's boring for me."
Mm.
And I'm just like, "It's not about you, it's about them."
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about, as you know, did your parents come all the time? Were there kids on the team? I mean, I remember seeing there were a few kids on the team that their parents didn't show up very often. And so it's just like, I wonder how they felt. Um,
Mm.
you know, what do you
Yeah.
feel about that?
So my parents, at least my dad, so my mom, the thing is my mom, she works and she's a teacher. So sometimes it was harder for her to like, on weekdays and stuff when I had games to come out. However, my dad, he came to every practice and every game that I had. Like
Mm,
he was as invested in my soccer journey as I was,
hmm,
right? Which is huge. I knew I had like someone with me who was there, right? Um, which is why, like I said before, it was always out of love. It's just that I know now looking back, like the way it was done, sometimes, I understand like there could have been a better way, but he was just
yeah.
doing what he knew what to do, right?
Mm,
He was doing it his way and the way that he felt was best in that situation. He was doing his best the same way I was doing my best, right?
right. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, they were super supportive, so they would come whenever they could. But
Hmm.
like I said, when I moved to France, then that was it. I didn't
Yeah.
have that anymore. So what would happen then is in the first like couple of years, I would say, and then it stopped. But like after a game, I'd call my dad right away and I'd tell him exactly everything about the game, like how everything
Yeah.
happened, how I played and all that stuff. Same thing after training, I'd tell him everything that we did in training. So it was still very involved in the best way that he could be. But then
Yeah.
yeah, over time it stopped because what happened was I think he understood that I knew what was best for me because I was actually on the journey at that point and I was living through it and I was
Hmm.
seeing it firsthand and I was experiencing it. So
Yeah.
he then let go, I guess, and he was like, you know what? He knows what he's doing, so I'm just
Hmm.
gonna let him do his thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just wondered how my kids felt. I haven't really asked them much
Hmm.
because I didn't want to spotlight it, but how they felt that their dad didn't come very much. He
Mm.
just didn't come.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
think
and what that meant.
yeah, I think it hurts. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I have an experience because my when when I was, how old was I? 16, 17, 18-ish in France. My girlfriend at the time like didn't really like soccer or anything like that, right? But I would have loved for her to come and watch my games, because it's
Yeah.
like you have an important person in your life and at the same time there's an activity or something that you're really passionate about that you take seriously and that you really enjoy and you almost want to share that with someone. You want to have
Yeah.
someone who's there with you, who's by your side type of thing, right? So I can understand, like, yeah, sometimes I think it does hurt. It does hurt when the parents don't show up,
Hmm.
especially if the reason for not showing up is because like they just don't want to. If that's the reason, then that's like that can
Yeah.
hurt a lot. If it's something else, if it's like
Work or
work and
something.
parents are busy and stuff like that, then it's understandable. Like I get that 100%. But if it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's just like you know, can't be
Yeah.
bothered,
Yeah.
mm, yeah, I can see how that can
So I,
hurt.
and I think it doesn't matter how old they are.
Yeah,
I mean, I think some parents think, well, they're teenagers now. They don't want me there anymore,
yeah,
but they still want you there as long as you behave
yeah. And it's
and
if you
don't
think about
embarrass
it
them.
this way, yeah. If you think about it this way though, like it's it's a parallel to life. Like it's almost like we as teenagers or as young people, we take hints if you and we interpret things a certain way. So for example, if you don't as a parent, if you don't show up to a game and you don't show up to the second game and the third game and the fourth game, then we question. Maybe we'll be like, well, maybe mom or dad is not going to show up for me when it matters later
Hmm.
on,
Yeah,
you
good
know?
point. Yeah.
Like, who knows how deep something like that can actually anchor itself in someone's mind, and you know, that can literally have a long-term effect that we might not notice right now, but
Hmm.
happens in the future.
Yeah.
So that's
Really
something
good
else to
point.
think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All good stuff. Hey, I noticed well, I know this already, but you're living back at home with the parents right now.
Yeah.
Notice if you've been with us for a while, you notice it's not just a blank wall behind him now. Now he's back in his childhood bedroom.
And I've
Check it
done it up.
out.
I've done it up nicely. I've made this
And he
like, so I've made this my
even
little
has a
office
stuffy in the
space.
corner.
My
So,
panda.
still a kid.
Harry Potter. Look, Harry Potter up there. This is like my soccer like shrine. I have like
Yes.
three collectible balls there and everything. A nice pair of cleats. Over there is my Star Wars little corner. My panda over here, which I love. And then I just had to act a little bit professional, so I put some books there. But yeah. No, no, I'm absolutely
He
loving
really
it. I
is. He really is an adolescent.
yeah, no, I love my room. I just did it up actually like a week ago, not even. So yeah, loving it.
Yeah. So he'll be living with his parents for a while until he goes back to France for finish off his soccer season. But
Yeah.
it's nice to see you at home.
Yeah,
And
it's good.
I bet it feels good to have your parents around you and have
It's
dinners made and
oh yeah,
all that
it's the
good stuff.
best. It's the
Yeah.
best. Less responsibility. But no, I love it. I love it. And hopefully we can get my mom and dad on the pod as well as guests. That'd be nice.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Oh, exactly. All
Yes.
right. Well, thank you. And go cheer on your kid if they're out there playing sports,
Yeah,
piano, whatever. Showing interest.
support them.
Don't be hard on
Mm,
them. Unless it's a passion of theirs that they really, really want to continue
yeah.
into a career, it's not worth beating them up over it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
unless they need it, right? If they need you to
mhm,
be hard on them, then that's okay, right? But otherwise, I mean, you don't want to hurt the relationship, so
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, anyways, take care everyone. We
Yep.
appreciate you all. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ask us questions, follow us everywhere, Instagram, all that good stuff. Um, and yeah, if you want to reach out to us, you can. You can email Susan, you can DM me. There's, as always, the 5 parenting tips that Susan has made. It's a PDF. It's amazing. Check it out. The link is in the description, and we'll see you all next week.
Okay.
Bye.